So today we have the pleasure to be interviewing Chris Brennan, screenwriter and marketing specialist. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hi guys, how you doing?
So going right away into the questions, can you tell us how did you get into the film industry?
So, how I got into the film industry was through Dublin Business School, actually. 2008, I applied and I became a student. I didn't have any industry connections or family members, so I was coming in straight. My father worked on the Alaskan pipeline, so not exactly a feeder system for the entertainment world. Um, and then what I noticed right away was that in the year one, we weren't going to make a film. And I didn't like that idea. Like I was hungry to put my creative ideas to use. So I actually went off and I rented my own equipment. And for the first year at film school, I just independently made my own film. I shot it over the course of months on weekends with friends. I shot it twice because I kept making so many mistakes. And that was like the biggest learning exercise I had. The college was great, but to actually go out there and practically do it. And then at the end of it, I had a short film. And then from there, I wanted to make something else. And now people who knew me knew that I'm somebody who makes films, not somebody who talks about them. So somebody connected me with a colleague of theirs who was a DIT on major Hollywood films. Uh, so he works in the camera department, but he's an aspiring cinematographer. So we collaborated on a music video together. And that was the first time where it was a very professional set. Like they showed up with equipment and a crew. And that basically kicked off my journey officially from like a film student into more of a professional setting. And from there, I would start leveraging as many connections and contacts that I could have. And it was all based on let's make something. So then when we would have in DBS guest lecturers come in, I would approach them and kind of introduce myself. See, but the difference was how could I help them? I wouldn't go like, "Hey, could you help me?" And soon enough, I was helping out a producer with film his children's football game, and that one contact led me to direct his short film with a budget of 25 grand or 30 grand. And then from there, I leveraged that further. So my journey into film was film school, make stuff, and then kind of embrace the opportunities I could, but showcase to everybody that I'm somebody who actually gets it done, finishes what they start, and does what they say. So that's how I kind of got the ball rolling. Eventually, I got to co-direct a feature film, and then I sold a feature script that was made, that premiered in Galway, and that's now streaming on the Trauma Now network. From there, that opened up opportunities to be hired as a paid screenwriter. And along the way, I was working a side career in marketing. Well, my main career in marketing while I had a side career as a screenwriter. So yeah, that's my journey into the film industry.
That is so cool. That's such an interesting journey and interesting way into the industry.
And it's the perfect example of like how one door kind of leads to another and
Another.
another and another.
And
Um,
so you said you kind of started everything, by studying in DBS and studying film. And then how did you first decide to, study in Ireland, or how did you pick, DBS?
So I lived in Dublin at the time. I'm originally from Fairbanks, Alaska, but I was living in Dublin for years at that point. Then in 2008, my mother died, actually. At the time, I was working in bars. So what I did actually was I wrote a list of like the top 10 things I wanted to do. I don't know. It was something about that moment. Of course, as you can imagine, it was super impactful and emotional and devastating. So I made this list of top 10 things I should do with myself. And number one was make a film. I went to New York for the summer. And then when I came back, I was like, I need to go to a film school and I should go now. And DBS was available. So I picked it. That's basically it. I really just got super motivated to, to do something. And I felt that filmmaking might just be my calling. And the second I got into it, I was like, for the first few years, I bothered everybody I knew because it's all I talked about. Because I was like, I think I found the thing. But yeah, it kind of was born out of a tragedy, actually.
yeah, well, at least you got something good out of it or meaningful.
Yeah.
So tell us about an experience where you failed and you learned a big lesson from it.
I remember when I was doing DBS, and then I got the opportunity to get into the film-based Staffordshire University master's course on feature film production, where they were going to select three of the students to actually co-direct the feature. And while doing that, I actually got selected to be one of the co-directors. And around the time we finished the production, I entered a competition for a mockumentary series. I didn't win, but while I did it, I actually attracted a producer who was interested in buying the script. And this was somebody who came into the master's program, and it was part of like an educational pitch exercise where you're pitching to like a real decision maker. But I had a promo that I filmed as part of the competition, so I showed that and presented it, and she loved it. And so then the organizer of the master's course comes to me later going, she actually wants to buy it. Like, do you have a screenplay? How fast could you write it? So I was thrilled and naive. So I wrote the screenplay in 9 days and it was ready. So when I go to the Galway Film Festival with my co-directed feature, I now have this other one ready to go. And I have a meeting, which, again, super naive. I'm like, this is how it works, doesn't it? You just kind of float to the next opportunity. So I sent the screenplay in advance. I met her and I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like, let's get to work. And then she proceeded to rip me to shreds, like verbally, and tell me like I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write. Offered me what kind of books I could like read on writing. And she's like, this isn't it. Like I thought this was supposed to be something else. In there, she did pepper in some constructive criticism that I used for this second draft. But so yeah, it didn't work out. She did not pick up the script, and it was an important life lesson. Like I learned immediately, is like this is not going to be that easy. And eventually, the person who read the screenplay first, the person who came to me and said she wants your screenplay, she wants your project. How fast can you get a screenplay? He loved the first draft, and after a subsequent second and third draft, he ended up buying it from me. So the lesson I learned was like it's failure is part of the process and do not take it emotionally. If anything, you're gonna meet people who will say mean things to you, some things you don't think you deserve, but that's more about them than you. Like don't actually take it personally, but see what you can salvage out of any kind of criticism and then move forward positively.
I think in general, that's like something you have to keep in mind, especially in creative industries. And you were, of course, already involved in the film industry, and then you got into marketing later, right? And then
That's correct.
how did you get into marketing, or how did you decide you wanted to do that as well?
So while I was writing, directing, producing short films, music videos, some promotional videos, and then the features, I was working in a bar at the time. Like when I'd sell a screenplay or get an opportunity, it was great, but it couldn't like sustain for like the entire year. So I needed something else. And at the time, my wife was actually in marketing, and I thought, I think I could do that, but my CV doesn't say marketing. So what I did was I went to the Digital Marketing Institute and I did a 5-day boot camp in marketing to get the certificate. And before I did the 5-day one, I just put it on my CV that I had the certificate and applied to marketing internships. So the internship starts on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I get a call to have a internship meeting at a video production company. So I skipped Thursday of the 5-day camp. I just skipped it to do the meeting. And then the week after, I had the internship, much to the surprise and shock of my wife, who went, this is not how it works. I'm like, it'll be how it works. Like perception's everything. Like I'll just say I can do it. It's an internship. So that's how I got into marketing. I kind of like just worked my way into it, and that kicked it off. So I worked a couple places then from there, and then eventually I got a job in a software company where I was there for 7 years, and I learned like everything about marketing, from lead generation, content, everything. And the entire time I was sitting there going, this is so much valuable information that I was never taught in film school. I think somebody should bring this kind of guidance, these best practices, these tips and even templates to an audience that have just been starved of it because they don't even know that they don't know it. And I found this kind of way that I could utilize my writing ability, my videography, my editing, a lot of the creativity I like can actually be poured into the content side of marketing. And along the way, I learned really great principles on professional communication strategies.
And I think that's very valuable because I'm not interested in marketing at all, but I know how important it is when it comes to
Yeah.
selling a movie, selling your project, selling, and it's great that you're mixing both worlds. We wanted to know what is the thing that makes your approach to marketing unique?
Basically, what makes my marketing unique in general, outside of the screenwriter aspect, is that it seems obvious, but if you go to websites, you'll see most people get this wrong. In marketing, most companies talk about themselves. Shockingly, they do. Whereas you need to start talking about your audience. So you'll see any kind of startup website where they go, "We're the world's first this and this." And it's like, what that elicits from a response feeling is someone goes, "Good for you," because it's literally not anything to do with me. So what I do is I make it super, super audience focused. It's like all I care about. I don't even really care about competitors as much. I'll research them at the beginning, but really they don't matter because if you just focus your mindset on specifically who your audience is and how you can help them, then it doesn't matter what your competitor does because you're creating this like relationship uh, with the audience. And then when I brought this into what I would call screenwriter marketing, it was basically developing a program where I could translate a lot of these best practices and even the foundations of marketing, but they don't really directly apply to the film industry, the entertainment world, to screenwriters. We do have a very particular ecosystem. So what I needed to do was tailor a lot of the material for the lifespan and the relationships of screenwriters. And then along the way, it's about educating the creative professionals as to what actual industry they're in. So I call it screenwriter marketing because a lot of the principles are marketing, but you could also say that it's about teaching creatives to be entrepreneurial, like to actually look at you're creating a business. And as a screenwriter, your product is your screenplay and your service is your writing, but you've never thought of it that way because you present yourself as the artist. And artists can be taken advantage of because what happens a lot with an artist is their yearning to create art will make sure that they get taken advantage of. So they go around asking for help, asking for guidance, asking for opportunities. Whereas we need to understand this is a B2B industry. You're a business communicating with another business. And what you need to do is showcase the value you can bring to them while also keeping yourself at a certain standard of value too, because this is your profession. If you were to start a business and you wanted to understand the world before you even get into funding, you would actually create ICPs, which are ideal customer personas. So I've changed that into industry connection personas. So I kept the acronym, but this is the key people that screenwriters need to see as their target audience, and then to understand uh, what their wants are, their needs, their obstacles, and their goals so that you can reflect your communication directly to that audience. So it's just been about translating a decade plus knowledge and experience in marketing for an audience that have never had this.
So, as you told us already, you've done many things from music videos, screenwriting, now marketing. Uh, what would you say is your favorite process or area in this creative industry and why?
I remember I was last year for the company I'm working for, I got to write and produce a commercial, um, which was great. And because of that, then I hired a production company. Then I was on the set, and it's been so long since I've actually been on a set. It's been like since 2020, right before the pandemic. I made a short film in Ireland. I was like, oh my God, I love this. This is so good. I want to do this more often. But I do have to say, when I'm actually together with collaborators and you kind of got the pressure going and you have to make these decisions, and the parking space that you booked is taken, so you've got to find another place to shoot because you were supposed to put the car and the camera there. There's some kind of energy I like about that. Maybe when I started out, it was too nerve-wracking, but now I feel like that's where the magic actually comes from. And just being in those conversations, the pressure's on, and you just go, look, we're going to have to make it work. I really noticed how much I missed that, so I'm looking forward to getting that back. But to be honest, it's like I enjoy every stage. Maybe the one I would enjoy the least is actually the editing if I have to edit myself. I actually prefer having an editor, but other than that, I actually enjoy like every stage. Even when I have to pitch, I enjoy that.
So we have two last questions, and one of them is
Sure.
about the Words Across Europe scheme or program.
Yeah.
So Connor was telling us this
Yeah.
morning that you got involved as a mentor into that. And
I did. Yeah.
can you tell us about a bit about, Words Across Europe itself and how you got involved?
I remember when I was in your class, there was this point I was making, particularly about, I think it was in the social media section, about how people misunderstand how to use social media. So really, I was highlighting what you should do, in my opinion. It's about documenting your progress, you know? Like you don't need a hard sell. You don't need to like schlock around and like go too busy with like selling your soul for anything. I think if you just kind of document the journey you're on, like you will invite the right type of collaborators. And so when I went to Dublin for my screenwriter tour, my screenwriter marketing tour, where in 4 days I had 5 sessions booked, I documented it. I just kind of posted once a day each day. And so I put myself out there. This is a new topic. There is a little bit of nerves to it. I've been covering it for a while organically on YouTube, but this is the first time I like went straight to the Writers Guild of Ireland Script Biz event where I'm talking to established talent as well as up and coming. But I really put myself out there with these ideas. And again, it can be tricky because like, it doesn't exist. And I'm like this time I was going real marketing. I was like, how are they going to react to being told lead generation funnels? Like, this could go backwards. But as we highlight, I kind of enjoy that. I'm like, but what if it works? Ever since then, I still get messages from people thanking me for it. I'm getting messages booking me with other workshops. I'm not joking. Like I've just had a meeting today where I secured 2 workshops with the National Talent Academy's animation department because someone at ScriptBiz recommended me to them directly. So when they reached out to me, they weren't going, "We'd like to interview you." They just said, "You have the job. Let's settle the date." I'm like, "Oh, so this is the importance of putting yourself out there and then documenting your progress." And so what happened with Words Across Europe was that the organizer saw the director of the Writers Guild post about ScriptBiz and myself on stage talking about marketing. She reached out directly to me to be a mentor for the program and also to help her market the program itself because she's looking for more applicants. And so I hit this other phase where now I'm a mentor within the program, but I'm now also helping the program as a marketer in general because I really understand this audience. And it's a super, super interesting topic. So it's Europe's first and only VR writers room where people can apply for free and you get paid to participate. 9 screenwriters are going to be selected and they're going to be sent VR headsets and to go in a virtual writers room together. And then they're going to be separated into 3 writers teams, 3 writers rooms to devise TV topics. So it's a real immersive setting. And at the end of it, you're gonna have the chance to pitch it to um, streamer, studio, and broadcast executives. And then there's 18 mentors along the way. And I'm a mentor who's basically focusing on the marketing and the kind of position and packaging. So once you have your ideas together, like how can you convey it? How can you communicate it professionally? And take some of the principles I've highlighted. The deadline is April 7th. It seems like an amazing opportunity. And what I'm recommending to people is apply. Because if you get in, this could be the sign you're waiting for. If everybody's waiting for signs, I tell them, don't wait for signs, be proactive. Well, this is like your number one sign to tell you to just do this. And some of the exercises I give people in my classes is giving them weekly prompts of like, do one small thing every day that helps your career. And I'm saying apply to this program. It's free to get into. You'll get paid. Document your progress while you're doing it, like a selfie with a VR headset. And then you're telling the world that you're active, that you're engaged, and that you're being productive. And that's how you draw in collaborators.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As someone who loves screenwriting, I'm definitely going to apply. When I saw this, when Connor was telling us, I was like, this is such a great opportunity. So yeah, no, it's great. It's a really cool.
No, do it. I would 100%.
Hope the experience goes well.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, I'm sure your most asked question and the one that you like to answer the least is what advice would you give to young and upcoming people in the creative industry? But we're gonna twist it and we're gonna ask you how would they find their niche and
So
what would they
like
find?
you,
Okay.
marketing niche, do you have any advice for us, for example, how to find our specific niche in the industry?
Well, first off, I like that other question. That's a great question. Like I have no issue with that whatsoever. Like, what advice do you give to up and coming talent? I think that's great. But how to find your niche? This is something that nobody can actually tell you yourself. Like this has to come from you. But in a way to kind of stimulate that thought process, I think a good way to look at it is think about branding in terms of what you want to be branded as. And a good way of understanding branding is if I were to Google a term, like just a term, what would you like to appear under? So, for instance, you Google screenwriter marketing and I show up. So, that was a really great way to kind of go, what do I want to be known for? What do I want to add value to? Um, and I think that's where you find your niche. A little note to put on top of that is I don't like it when people think like when I talk to writers and they create ideas or they write material and their goal is like this is what I want to be known for. Like this is like writing for a legacy, whereas I much prefer this is a project that I would love to see in the audience. The difference is one is very self-focused and one is very communal. And I think that the communal idea is if you're writing, there's an audience already around you watching it. That feels a little better, a lot better than like this really narcissistic, like my legacy I'm building. Because now the project is for you and you alone. I much prefer the concept of what do you want to see if you were in the audience? And that kind of mindset, I think, helps a lot. My niche is really understanding that transition from up and coming to established, and it happens that first time in the breakthrough stage. So, I mean, open your mindset, your ideas to like anything, but it has to resonate with you because if it doesn't, the first time or the first couple of obstacles you'll hit, you'll probably quit because you're not resilient enough, or the idea wasn't resilient enough for you to continue. So I hope that helps.
I love the advice of putting yourself in the perspective of the public instead of the creator and
The artist.
the
Yeah.
artist, the author.
Yeah,
Because it
I
simplifies.
don't like the artist one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, it was very good and interesting talking
Yeah.
to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting, listening to your journey. We
No,
made it.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much.